The world is changing quickly, and we must be ready to change with it or risk being left behind. This mandate that I seek is about continuity and sustainability against disruption and stagnation, about moving forward versus regressing. We have to safeguard what we have already achieved. We cannot put at risk what we have. We cannot gamble away our future. I would argue that ASEAN has been instrumental in driving both economic growth and political development, and that there can be no clearer example than its relations with Myanmar. Many young Muslims see no opportunities for themselves and do not feel they have control over their lives or a stake in their nation's future. Such pessimism leads to disengagement. We risk losing a generation of young Muslims to apathy and extremism. More than 13,000 Malaysians travel to the UK to study in British universities every year. Don't gamble the future of your children and Malaysia. Think and contemplate, because your vote will determine not only the future of the country, but also your grandchildren. The vast majority of Malaysians are sensible people. They're moderates. They want peace. They want harmonious race relations at home. They look for national unity. In spite of the huge diversity in Malaysia in terms of religion, culture, race, ethnicity, and so forth, we've really gone very far in developing this country. If we can increase the share of Islamic finance for the world, countries can benefit, and certainly Malaysia can benefit from that. I'm quite an advocate of free trade. As you know, with the Arab Spring, there were no dividends. My priority is to ensure peace and harmony in Malaysia. That is uppermost in my mind. It's very alarming to see what's happening in the Muslim world, and it's about time we come to our senses and realize that moderation is the only path that will ensure peace and stability for the Muslim world and for the wider world. You must make sure that the majority of the people are not marginalized. The disappearance of MH370 has tested our collective resolve. Agreeing to share prosperity, rather than let it divide us, is infinitely preferable to the alternative. Instead of passing on choppy waters to the next generation, we should endeavor to lead them a calmer sea. I am concerned if 25% of Americans think that President Obama is a Muslim. I mean, it's obviously a lack of knowledge. But also, it's for the Muslims as well, you know, because a small numbers of Muslims have really painted a very negative image of Islam. Anyone who wants to be part of the political process should adopt values that are compatible with democracy. We have lost a lot of ground to the extremists in the Middle East. Moderate doesn't mean that you're a wimp, far from it. It means that you've chosen a path because you believe that's the only way for global harmony and peace. Anything to do with any new form of tax, like consumption tax in Japan, carbon tax in Australia, these are big issues that cannot be easily decided. Prostitution and corruption are two things that mankind has had to live with for so long. I've made UMNO more democratic, more inclusive. Of course, by doing that, I'm putting myself at risk. Economic progress and better education have directly resulted in the birth of a class of voters who are better informed, very demanding and highly critical. The word change has been abused so many times. It so happens, in Malaysia, the people who are in a way not doing as well constitute the majority of the people, the Buma Puteris. Detention without trial is history in Malaysia. If you say something that undermines the stability of the country, then you have to be held accountable. There's good economic progress in Malaysia. People have a lot to look forward to. We can transform the government and the economy, as well as democracy, in Malaysia. People willy-nilly borrow for consumption. Civil servants willy-nilly borrow for consumption and then wonder why they don't have enough money at the end of the month. Over the past months and years, divisions have opened up in Malaysian society. Now it is time for all of us, in government and beyond, to put the bitterness behind us. Together, we will act to bring about national reconciliation, secure Malaysia's economic future, and build a stronger, more harmonious society. After choosing monetary union, further political union and workable governance in Europe was always going to be necessary. The stabilizing power of economic union was one of the reasons the EU was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The world is shifting from a hegemonic era, where the United States dominated alone, to a multipolar system. The EU's 500 million citizens enjoy the right to live and work in any of the Union's 27 member states. The Arab awakening was driven by youth, organized by technology, and fired by a hunger for political change. As a leader of a majority Muslim nation, I believe Islamic countries must better understand what young people aspire to. In the space of one lifetime, the Internet has opened up opportunities that were previously inconceivable. I speak for all Malaysians in expressing my admiration for the Queen and the grace, poise, and selflessness with which she has carried out her duties during her long reign. She represents the very best of British traits: dignity, resilience, and hard work. For many decades, Myanmar was on the receiving end of very public diplomatic scoldings, often backed up by sanctions. For many years, Myanmar's leadership was largely shut out from the world of international diplomacy. As the leader of Southeast Asia's oldest democracy, I am always keen to share our experiences. In the half-century since independence, we have found that steady reform is the best way to secure lasting stability. It is a process that continues in Malaysia to this day. My heart reaches out to those whose loved ones were lost on MH17. What I'm trying to do is get a change in the mindset so people move from a level of mere tolerance to total acceptance and eventually to celebrate diversity. If you feel comfortable with one another, it doesn't matter whether we live in which neighborhood, but we can interact with one another freely. It's a mindset. You should allow professors to become really outstanding academicians, recognized worldwide, and you should reward them. Homosexuality is acceptable in the West. I keep on saying, being moderate is fundamental to Islam. I think the rise of China is inevitable, because China has moved from a low-cost producer, at low levels of technology, to higher levels of technology, and because it's very competitive, even in some high-tech products they offer at very competitive rates, much lower than their competitors. In any society, there will be the whole spectrum of views. You will get the extremists on the far right and also the far left. Giving subsidies is a two-edged sword. Once you give it, it's very hard to take away subsidies. There's a political cost to taking away subsidies.